certainly don't have fear. So yeah, I think we're looking at kind of the main three of Bauhaus, Groenewegen and Milano, and then everybody's going to base their sprint run about them.
Other ones to watch out for, perhaps Luca Colnaghi, another rider who's certainly not afraid in these technical run-ins, the technical finishes from Green Project Bardiani CSF. 24-year-old Italian rider Louis Blau of Bingol in that fluorescent yellow jersey. Anthony Lopez of Euskaltel Euskadi. Nicola Dalla Vella, who we saw earlier on. He'll be trying to get himself involved, as will Matteo Moschetti. Robin Freudevo of Tudor Pro Cycling, the fastest of their 7 riders that they've brought to the race here. Human Powered Health have got 2 options, despite having Sebastian Schoenberger in the breakaway now, the sole leader. I think he's realised that he's not gaining any more time and he can feel the peloton who are chasing him down. That time gap 6 seconds, although still tracking that motorbike. Human Powered Health have Stanislaw Aniolkowski, also Alan Banaszek, another rider who thrives in these finishes.
That was almost one of those moves where back in the team car they said to attack here and see what happens. And
but perhaps didn't quite want to, hey?
And you're not always, you think, oh yeah, I don't feel too bad, who wants to go and attack? And yeah, you have a volunteer, and then once they're out there they think, well, this hasn't turned out like I thought it was going to be. But sometimes you never know what's going to happen. A couple of guys come across and then it turns into a whole different kind of vibe of that can survive until the finish.
Well, despite looking like he wanted to give up the pursuit out front, he's gone from 6 seconds to 9 seconds. He's added another 3. He's still tracking that motorbike into a slight headwind on this part of the course. Inside 23.3 kilometres to go. Perhaps giving the peloton behind a little bit of false.
I think they're just playing with him. Sometimes we'll just leave you out there, we won't come and get you straight away. And if you're out front you think, well, I'll make you try harder. But his fate is sealed as soon as there's any type of reinforcements on the front of the peloton.
This is stage 1 of the Tour of Slovenia. If you're just joining us, welcome aboard. This is stage 1 from Celje to Rogaška Slatina. 189.5 kilometres this stage. The opening stage in the fight for green in this beautiful countryside of Slovenia. The race first organised 30 years ago. It was organised in honour of the independence of the Republic of Slovenia. At the same time, it joined as a new member of the UCI. It's a race that's rich in heritage. It's always been organised by the Novo Mesto Cycling Club, which is now known as the Adria Mobil Cycling Club since 2005. A brilliant race where World Tour teams come to hone in their form for the Tour de France. Others coming to get some race results, as we see one of the pre-race and pre-stage favourites, Dylan Groenewegen there, number 22, just sitting behind his teammate Lucas Postelberger. Just behind him is the Italian champion, his teammate Filippo Zana. A brilliant race to also develop the Slovenian cyclists, and we've seen many riders who've gone on to great things, having been successful here. My name's Hannah Walker, alongside me Pippi York for the 5 days and 5 stages for the duration of the Tour of Slovenia. There's Phil Bauhaus. He's got Nicolo Boratti, the young rider from Bahrain Victorious, just in front of him. It's not been an easy day on the opening stage of the Tour of Slovenia because it's been up and down. The one and only classified climb of the day was, let's say, slightly easier than all the climbs that have succeeded it.
It was the King of the Mountains was the easiest one that they've done today, which is kind of a strange choice given some of the little kickers that we've been over. And yeah, sometimes that happens in this level of race, that for whatever reason the hardest climbs aren't classified, and there's probably been some kind of sponsorship deal done for that King of the Mountains point, so it ends up on a something that doesn't look too hard. And then the hardest climbs, there's just a few people standing at the top of them, and they see the best bit of race, which we've seen today.
There's the bridge in Rogaška Slatina, the Sun overpass. And you can see when you come off of these wide main roads and you make these left or right hand turns into the narrow roads, just the chaos that it causes, and just how much and how many positions you end up losing if you're too far back.
Yeah, you have to pay. If you've got local knowledge, you know when you can move up and then kind of outbrake people into the corners, and it doesn't really cost you any energy. Whereas if you aren't really paying attention, sit down the back thinking it's going to be easy, you take a left or a right and suddenly you're stopped, and the riders on the front are still doing 40k an hour, and you find yourself doing these false flats way too fast, and they kind of wear you out. And we've seen that already with the steep hills that have been just coming into this last hour, that each time there's 10-15 riders lost and they make their way back. But eventually they'll run out of energy and they won't come back at all.
Well, 138 riders started the stage in Celje. That peloton is considerably smaller than when we started.
There's probably 40 odd riders have disappeared just through natural wastage.
Bora Hansgrohe taking control at the front, and this is the first time that we've seen another team who have come to take control and contribute up towards the front. And for the majority, or for the duration of the stage so far, it's been the Australian outfit of Team Jayco Alula, with Damarki, Peña, Hamilton, who have been on the front. This is the makeup of the team of Bora Hansgrohe. Giovanni Aliotti, he'll be one of the riders who's protected for the overall general classification you would expect come the end of the 5 days. Shane Archibald, Cesare Benedetti, the Italian-born, now Polish-registered rider who's doing the work on the front there. Florian Lipovitz, Louis Jolieurs, Edith Schelling and Ben Zwiehoff, the makeup of the 7 riders for Bora Hansgrohe. Of the 7 riders, it's interesting because the fastest rider within that squad, Shane Archibald, surely he'd be their protected rider today, albeit not having the most consistent of seasons through sort of injury and the crashes.
Yeah, we haven't seen him too much. He's been more in that kind of lead-out role, and we haven't seen him doing any results for himself. He usually does quite a lot of work just coming into the last 5-10 kilometres. But he wasn't up near the front there with the other riders, so a kind of interesting choice for Bora to take it up with Bernadetti on the front. You're just going to wonder what they've got planned for this next part. Because Ida Schelling's fast, but he's not in the same level as Groeneweg or Milano. So,
is it perhaps just to keep themselves out of trouble on these narrow sections, as we see another crash on the roads here? That's Abrija, number 111 for Q36.5, and also one rider there from Green Project Bardiani. A touch of wheels on the left hand side and he's in all sorts of pain, and that is Santo Romita. Alessandro Santormarita of Green Project Bardiani CSF looks in all sorts of pain there.
He did, and I don't think he landed on the. I don't think he landed on the grass that he's now sitting on. It looked like somebody's probably crashed on that little bit of gravel there.
Lucas Eriksson, the Swedish national champion, decides now's the time for the rider from Tudor Pro Cycling to make his move. They've been attempting on these short, sharp climbs to do this on a number of occasions throughout this stage. With 17.8 kilometers to go, he's got one rider who's with him of Q36.5 Pro Cycling. And at the moment, this is the largest gap that the team has been able to get. He's alongside Alessandro Fedeli, and the three-time Swedish national champion is pushing on up the front. Well, it's day done for Schoeneberger of Human Powered Health. His breakaway is done for the day, and leading out front is Fedeli and Eriksson. It becomes really nervous here, Pippa, when we're onto these narrow roads.
It does, every time.
You see the fight for position in the peloton from the World Tour teams. Again, now there's a change up the front. Filippo Zana's on the front for Jaco Alula.
So yeah, like you said, every time you come on these small roads, as soon as you leave that valley road, there's some kind of action happens, which is perfectly normal on the valley road. Who's going to attack into headwind basically on their own, other than the Human Health Power guy who did it exactly the wrong time. So now he's been tumbling backwards. If he, like I said earlier, if he'd taken it easier and saved his energy, then he could probably have followed these moves. You can just see from the pressure here at the back, it's natural wastage every time there's a corner or something, there's a pinch point. The riders at the back are having to slow down, and then they're doing all these rises 50% harder than the riders in the front who've just kind of flowed through all the corners.
Milano is starting to suffer from this pace and on these climbs. He's come back on one occasion before. How many more times can he do it as the pace is really on at the front? It's been set by the Italian champion and Giro d'Italia stage winner Filippo Zana. He's got Border Hansgrohe in the wheel. That's Ben Zwiehoff. Adromobile up there with one rider, as is Human Powered Health. "15 seconds for this duo out front, Eriksson and Fedeli. Inside the final 16.4 kilometers on today's stage, and the duo working well together. Perhaps they feel that they're protected sprinters for the day. Perhaps they're not feeling all so confident when they're up against the likes of Phil Bauhaus, Dylan Groenewegen, and this is a good opportunity on a day where everyone was expecting it to be for the sprinters, for other teams to say, no, we're going to shake things up here. We want to try and make this difficult and hard.
Yeah, and each of those accelerations that happen, the riders who've been riding on the front for the likes of Jaco or UAE, they go tumbling backwards, so they lose one of their collective, and that'll be somebody who won't be able to chase now as they're just coming onto the start of this. They're roughly 3 kilometers come through the finish line, and then it's a matter of the World Tour teams are going to have to get really organised. Zana's going to have to keep this under control inside of 30 seconds and then hopefully UAE and Jaco can get organised again.
They've got them in the sights. They'll enter that loop with 12.8 kilometres to go. They'll make that left-hand turn. They'll cross the finish line, so they'll be able to see that final 800 metres or so of what the run-in is like. And they'll do one lap around our finishing town of Rogaška Slatina.
So everybody's quite happy that Filippo Zanna's on the front here. He's got them pegged at that 10-15 seconds, so there's no real panic at the moment. And then reinforcements will come from behind and probably close the gap down just as they go through the finish line for the first time.
This point on the course is one of the last major digs on the course before they'll descend, and then they'll get into Rogaška Slatina. And Ericsson is wanting to try and make sure that he capitalises on any part of the course that has a steep gradient as we pass the health park in Rogaška Slatina.
And every one of those little ramps, if you've ever ridden a push bike, they just kill you. Yeah. When you're racing at this, after they've done now 160 kilometers or so, they just stop you instantly.
Alessandro Fedeli of Q36.5 leads down this descent. A change in control up towards the front as UAE Team Emirates come towards the front. There is Bora Hansgrohe with 4 riders. One rider from Tudor Pro Cycling is also in the mix there. Fedeli able to take so much speed into Rogaška Slatina and through these corners. The motorbikes can't get out of the way quick enough.
This run into the town, it looks like it's quite technical. So then when you're on the motorbike, it's really difficult to carry the same amount of speed as you can on a push bike.
Into this technical finish, and it shows just how strung out this is now, because any riders, as you can see, Zanna almost sprinting with all his might. The gap out to 14 seconds with 13.3 kilometers to go. And this is a look at what the finish looks like. It's a wide run-in. There's a wonderful reception from the fans and the crowds, and Zanna a slight ease up at the front here. The duo out front, Fedeli and Ericsson hear the bell. 12.8 kilometers remain of stage 1 here at the Tour of Slovenia. Led across the line in the peloton is the Italian champion of Jaco Alula, Filippo Zanna. In his wheel is Ben Zwihoff of Bora Hansgrohe. It's been a hard, arduous day on the roads here in Slovenia, and the damage that has been done on the non-classified climbs have really whittled this peloton down. We've started with 138 riders. We're touching on probably 50 riders in that peloton now, just by the nature of the course. Last opportunities for riders to take on some fuel, take on some hydration and some fluids as we pass the wonderful villa there, Villa Angelina in Rogaška Slatina.
Obviously sponsored by...
Not a bad pad.
Solar panels. It's a Bardiani rider trying to come across.
Green Project Bardiani decide that they want to try and send a man up the road, and it's Alessandro Tonelli, a man who we often see in breakaways, but perhaps not this late on in the day.
Well, they've been very quiet for their usual tactics of being in the break and doing every sprint and every climb. So maybe they've had a change of director sportif who's decided to wait for the finish instead of attacking at the start.
perhaps working towards their strengths. He's pegged it at a good opportunity, a good moment to try and bridge across. We still get the feeling that there's still some firepower, some horsepower, and Milano has got himself back in for UAE Team Emirates. There he is, the Colombian rider, and he looks quite relaxed. Perhaps he was just managing his effort on all of these climbs, knowing that he'd get back on.
He certainly didn't look as stressed there as he did when he was climbing. He's obviously riding to a certain level of power, and he can't really afford to go over it, which is quite often the case of when you come back. If you go deep into the red and you're not fully race fit, then you're never going to recover.
Tonelli bridges across to leading duo of Fedeli and Eriksson. Tonelli, a stage winner in the Crow race during his career. The vast amount of his career is spent being a domestique, a helper, a worker, or a man who's always in the breakaway. He was in several breakaways during the Giro d'Italia.
Whoops.
As we just see some of these pinch points for the riders. Everyone gets through safely. Tom De Vriends at the back still for Q36.5. Meanwhile, his teammate is up at the front. Alessandro Fedeli in that grey, silvery jersey.
They're working well at the moment. Tonelli must be strong because he rode straight across the gap to them and inside a kilometre.
Anna's mansion. There's a lot of mansions and
Angelina's.
Lovely, yeah, Angelina's mansion. There's Ava's mansion, and Lucas Myler of Team Vorarlberg. Number 175, just taking a look behind him. He's decided he wants to try his luck and try his opportunity to try and bridge across to the leading trio out front.
That's interesting because obviously they're back in the peloton. They're feeling that the pace isn't high enough for these three riders to be pulled back.
Well, we're inside the final 10 kilometres of stage one. The time gap is 12 seconds. This trio sharing the workload well, but this man from Team Vorarlberg, Lucas Myler, the 28-year-old, he was quick to make an advantage. But I think on these short little rises where the road maybe only lifts 1-2% in its gradient, he's not gaining too much time over Jaco Alula, who are leading the chase and have been doing for the majority of the day. On the front, it's Jesus Peña once again. He's had some time to recover after all the work he did earlier on, Pippa.
He has.
He's back for a second stint.
He's done a lot of work on the front. I'm amazed that he's the only one from Jaco that's still there because everybody else has disappeared. And at the moment, there's a kind of lull from the World Tour teams that they aren't taking control of this. So there we saw the Peña riding and Tudor Pro Cycling were lined up behind them, so maybe they sense an opportunity here.
Zuccarotto moving up with Marcelucci on his wheel of Green Project Bardiani. There's Luca Colnaghi, number 71, just in the trio of the lime green and white jerseys. You can just see them on the left-hand side of the screen. Alongside them is the man from Calle Royal. That's David Gonzalez. Watch out for him in the sprint.
But there's no real organisation at the moment, so you would think that either Bora or UAE would kind of impose themselves on the front, but everybody's a bit separated and it's not that organised.
You could see behind there that Jaco Alula are just moving themselves back through the peloton. They've sent two guys back. This trio out front with 8.1 kilometres remaining, with 18 seconds and no real organisation in that peloton. We've got Lucas Myler, who's trying to bridge across. He's had a second wind. He's trying to close that gap. He's probably agonisingly close.
He's kind of stuck in between, so you can see some of the teams are trying to get organised. There's a bit of pushing and shoving going on as usual.
Pau Mikel just having a quick and brief word with John Canol of Team Vorarlberg. So you've got one of the teams from the Pro Team, the second division in pro cycling, with the third division. A little bit of jostling for position in the peloton at the moment. The riders wanting to try and move themselves out in the line, try and move their way through. Pau Mikel is saying, well, I want to be here, I want to be protected in out of the wind. And on the front now is Nicolo Boratti, who's on the front for Bahrain Victorious in that red jersey. The young rider who transferred from Bahrain Victorious's development team of cycling team Friuli to the World Tour team this year is doing the job on the front to make sure that this all comes down to a sprint finish for Phil Bauhaus. Just a little bit further back, freewheeling his way around the outside is Mati Mohoric, the local rider from Slovenia. He'll be looking for opportunities for himself throughout the week with stage victories and hoping for a good overall position in the general classification whilst doing his last preparations for the Tour de France, as is Phil Bauhaus. A good opportunity for a sprinter to use his team around him in preparation for those sprint stages at the Tour.
With this type of road, for the bunch behind, they can see them as long as it's under 20 seconds and they come into that last 5 kilometres. Then I don't think there's going to be too much trouble to take them back. They're not going to take them back easily because there's strong riders in the front. But once there's any kind of organisation inside that last 5 kilometres, then closing the gap won't be too hard. Oh, not too hard, but not impossible. You know, if they go to the kilometre and they leave 3 riders in the front with 20 seconds, then it's, you know, one of them will probably win. But you know, at 5Ks to go, it's still completely controllable.
16 seconds is the gap for the 3 riders out front with 5.6 kilometres to go. It's Bahrain Victorious who are doing the chasing from behind. Five and a half kilometres remain of stage 1 here at the Tour of Slovenia. We've got 3 riders who are out front. Alessandro Fedeli on the front for Q36.5. Alessandro Tonelli of Green Project Bardiani is bridged across, the rider in the lime green jersey. And on the back is the 3-time Swedish national road race champion, Lucas Eriksson of Tudor Pro Cycling. Tudor Pro Cycling have got 1 rider in the breakaway, but they've got themselves well positioned up towards the front and on the back of the lead-out train of Bahrain Victorious at the moment. They're hoping...
They were just having a little discussion there with Walt Poles about getting in the way. You can just see Poles saying, just let us get on with working on the front. And, the Tudor guys, obviously it's their right to be there, just to disrupt any chase that's trying to get organised.
Domen Novak on the right-hand side for UAE Team Emirates is starting to move up. You can just see him there with the former national champ bands on the cuffs of his sleeves. Also, Rui Oliveira is there. There is Alvaro Hodge, who's just tightening up the shoes. He's on the wheel of Rui Oliveira, his lead-out man. Diego Ulisi is just in front of Rui Oliveira. Interesting for UAE Team Emirates. Who do they sprint with? Do they go with Milano? Do they go with Hodge?
I think given how Milano was feeling, it would be more interesting to go with Hodge, but quite often there's a remarkable recovery as soon as they see that sprint coming.
Well, you said it earlier, Pippa, that when a sprinter has a sniff of the finish line, any of the suffering and the pain that they were previously feeling is
they turn into a completely different animal. But when they see that kilometre coming in there, they might be in the red, but For some reason, they can sustain that for a long, long time, which makes them, that's what makes them look like great sprinters.
The trio out front aren't making this easy for the chase behind. It's gulping and gasping in the air for Nicolo Boratti and Wout Powles, who are doing the work on the front for Bahrain Victorious at the moment. They know that they need to deliver their sprinter Phil Bauhaus with a stage victory into Ragashka Zlatina. He's won here previously, 2 years ago on stage 1, into this very same town. The time gap is 9 seconds, and they've got the trio just within their sights as the road starts to rise ever so slightly once again. They go through that 3 kilometre marker, and any problems that riders have now, mechanicals or crashes or alike, they'll be given the same time as the winner. But of course, let's hope it's a clean run into the finish line as the trio out front, they've still got the horsepower, they've still got something in the legs, Pippa.
They haven't fallen apart completely, but here come UAE now. Very different level of intent to close down that gap.
UAE Team Emirates take over from Bahrain Victorious.
And they're freewheeling, so that shows they're not completely committed. Oh, they are committed, but they're not completely flat out. As soon as if you're freewheeling inside the last 3 kilometres, somebody's able to close a gap to you.
You just saw Ericsson there, just missing a turn, letting Fedeli in front of him. A little bit of freewheeling, perhaps.
There's a little
trying to pull a bit of bluff.
A little bit of gamesmanship going on there. It's just pretending that they can't pull anymore, and then they're probably going to try and jump them near the end.
Coming into this finish, into the final 1800 metres. The wind blowing onto the right-hand shoulders of the riders. It's picked up throughout the day, and that time gap at 8 seconds, it goes up by a second, 9 seconds. Can this breakaway trio hang on? Is it too late for the peloton, or still time?
That looked bigger than the 9 seconds it was showing there. There's going to have to be a massive acceleration inside this last kilometre to close the gap. And remember, this is eight-man teams. It's 7 riders, and it's not 7 riders who are, going to do a lead out. It's going to be close.
It's going to be very, very close indeed. The breakaway, they took a gamble inside that final 20 kilometres to try and form the breakaway. And Tudor Pro Cycling were one of the teams who were animating the finish and animating the final 40, 50 kilometres on each of the non-classified climbs. They were trying to send one of their riders up the road, and finally they succeeded with Lucas Ericsson, the Swedish national road race champion. They bear this right-hand turn, and the peloton, they can see the breakaway trio in their sights. It's still Bahrain Victorious who are on the front, and Mati Mohoric, the local rider, is on the front at the moment. He's trying to pull things back together for Phil Bauhaus, and in the radio just behind, it's Tudor Pro Cycling who are on the radio to Lucas Ericsson to just tell him what is happening up ahead. And here, this is where the sprint starts to open up. The breakaway is caught inside 250 metres to go, and Jaco and Lula, they've had the control throughout the whole stage. They launched Dylan Groenewegen for the sprint, but here comes Phil Bauhaus coming down the centre of the road. Is Bauhaus going to get it? He's going to be close on the line. A throw for the line. Groenewegen thinks he's got it.
Yep, Groenewegen got that. Yeah, and you can see that how much the difference made when the sprinters fully commit to it. That lead out for 500 metres just closed that 8-second gap instantly.
Groenewegen wins stage 1 of the Tour of Slovenia.
Not as comfortably as he thought he was going to be.
That would have taken a lot out of Groenewegen. You can just see him.
That hurt. We think that these guys just ride in the wheels and then they do 300 metres flat out and it's okay. But he's been out there 190 kilometres, and that was a hard sprint.
A hard sprint, but it smiles for Groenewegen, who takes his 5th victory of the season. his 68th professional career victory. Well, he left the Dauphiné early, Pippa. You wouldn't do that unless you wanted to make sure that you came into this race with good preparation, knowing that there's no more sprint opportunities left in the Dauphiné, and he started off with a stage victory.
He has, and good for the morale. You know, Jaco Alula taking it up almost from the start. You know, they've chased all day. They've played their cards right from the start.
This was into the final kilometre, final 500 metres, and there was still a gap.
They're still 5-6 seconds in front, and then we see that lead up from
Mohoric,
and it closes a couple of seconds, and then the sprinters, see the lead up man comes 10, 15 kilometers an hour faster.
Bauhaus on the wheel of Groenewegen, Colnaghi trying to come up quick. Talk us through this moment here.
So Groenewegen's committed fully now, and Bauhaus coming, but it just runs out. He doesn't have the horsepower that Groenewegen's got. And you can see that those two are 10 meters in front of the kind of second string, you know, not well-known sprinters.
Schelling sprinting for Bora Hansgrohe there. Moschetti looks like taking third for Hugh 36.5. Groenewegen taking stage one of the Tour of Slovenia, closely challenged by Phil Bauhaus of Bahrain Victorious. In the end, comes down to half a bike length, and over the last 20 minutes or so, we've been having a few sound issues, so apologies for those viewers who are having some sound issues with the coverage. And there is the top 10. Dylan Groenewegen takes stage one ahead of Phil Bauhaus. Matteo Moschetti taking third. Annie Arlowski with fourth for Human Powered Health. Gonzalez of Caio Royal with the fifth. Ida Schelling in sixth. Brun, the birthday boy, in seventh. Barancheta in eighth. Barthelo in ninth. And Canal in 10th. Groenewegen making his way to the podium presentation alongside Andrea Garosio. Often like a maze for riders trying to find their way to the podium presentation and all the protocols that they have to do, Pippa.
Now we're seeing the not the grubby side of pro cycling, but the
real
images
behind the
scenes images of it's not all glamorous at the back there. But like you say, it's quite often an assault course to get round to the where you get to kind of clean yourself up before if you're going to the podium.
Well, it's not a bad record for Dylan Groenewegen. A third victory in Tirol-Gashka Slatina. It's going to be his favourite place to race in as we go past the Aphrodita Cosmetics factory. It was very much a similar scenario last year where the breakaway was away until the very end and only getting caught at the 300 to go marker here, Pippa.
So Jacob have to take up at 300, slightly earlier than they would have wanted it to. But since there's not really a top level of sprinter here, other than Groenewegen and Bauhaus, they're not going to get swamped from this point on. So Groenewegen needs to hit the front, 150 meters to go, almost ideal.
Bauhaus desperately coming with speed to try and get round Groenewegen, but just runs out of road. Annie Alkowski of Humid Powered Health there, trying to get on terms, as was Moschetti. See there, the rider from Green Project Bardiani dropping his chain with all sorts of fury there. Disappointment when you're in the mix for a stage win.
And he's lucky that didn't jam up in the rear wheel and cause a massive pile-up. That could easily have went badly there.
And we're in Pegasus Plaza. So many little attractions around in today's stage. It's a huge mineral water spa, crystal glass town here in Rogaška Slatina. Mineral water here, very rich in magnesium. Say, synonym for health resort. As we see the overall general classification, this Dylan Groenewegen leads ahead of Phil Bauhaus by 4 seconds. Matteo Moschetti in 6th. Raul Garcia Piena in with 8 seconds. Diego Ulisi in 5th. Annie Jakowski in 6th. Gonzalez in 7th. Schelling in 8th. Stage 1 won by Dylan Groenewegen. He takes the green leader's jersey as well as the leader of the Tour of Slovenia, courtesy of his bonus seconds and that stage victory. Well, thanks for joining us for stage 1 of the Tour of Slovenia. Make sure you join us tomorrow for stage 2. If you're watching on the television, you're going to leave. From myself, Hannah Walker and Pippa York, thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow. And if you're watching on digital, you'll be staying for the podium presentations. See all the festivities that are getting underway at the finish line with the school children and the families. This was the winning margin. It was half a bike length in the end over Bauhaus.
It wasn't that much of a throw of the machine, so I think he can probably feel it. You know, when you're in that kind of sprint, somebody's coming past you can feel them coming, and I think he had him stuck at half a bike, and he knew he had it probably 20 meters from the line. And those two were head and shoulders above the rest of the sprinters.
What a nice sprint it was. It looked pretty easy, but it wasn't, huh?
No, it wasn't. It was a really hard stage in the beginning. It was easy, good break. But then Bora and I think Tudor decide to go for the attack on the climb. So that make it not really easy for a sprinter like me. But the team was the whole time catching the break, block the road, bring me back in position. Yeah, and then on the end we used the whole team to catch the breakaway. We don't get help from the other teams. I don't know why, but it was okay. We get the victory, and Luka Mesges did amazing lead out. Yeah, he's really motivated. He had a training camp, and he's in a good shape. And yeah, today he did a perfect lead out. Was I think it was textbook, and yeah, then it's easy to catch the victory. But yeah, it was a hard stage. Yeah.
We didn't see you much, so the tactics was made perfectly.
The riders attacked the whole time on the climbs, and the climbs are really steep here, not too long, so it's okay for me. But it made the stage harder. It was also really warm. But the team did an amazing job. I was the whole time in the bubble of the peloton, and on the right moment, he bring me in pole position to get the victory for the team.
Just one more thing. I was standing there 50 kilometers, 50 meters from the finish line, and I saw that you put your tongue out of your mouth. What did it mean?
It was a really hard stage, so I was suffering the final. But it make the victory, that's the nicer. So I need to say thank you to my whole team. They worked really hard today. We use everyone. Also, like Sanna, he was pulling for me, so that gave a good motivation. So in the end of the week, it's time to do something back for the team. But now we celebrate this, and I need again to say thank you to my teammates today.
Thank you as well. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Not an easy stage for a sprinter, but he knew he had to repay the team, and Dylan Groenewegen, after a terrific lead out there from Mesges, he delivers on stage one of the Tour of Slovenia into Rogaška Slatina ahead of Phil Bauhaus. All the sweeter on a stage like today, Pippa, where it was so difficult and demanding. This was the sprint behind with Luca Colnaghi from Green Project Bardiani. You can just see him in the light green jersey. Ida Schelling of Bora Hansgrohe also trying to get himself into the mix. But that was the moment where this Colnaghi's teammate dropped the chain. Sparran trying to get himself in the mix as well for Euskatel Euskadi, as was Gonzalez.
I think that was Gabura who broke his chain. He was coming up. He's currently 5th position when you saw him snap. The chains just jumped straight off the rings on the front. Really strange thing to see.
Here's the provisional standings of the red leaders jersey in the points classification. Dylan Groenewegen could see of his stage victory, taking maximum points with 25, Bauhaus with 20, Moschetti with 16, Aniakowski with 14, Gonzalez with 12. Mern, courtesy of his day out in the breakaway, collecting 11 points in that breakaway. Ida Schelling with 10, Barencia with 9. Calorieros, another rider who was in that breakaway, puts himself up in the standings to 9th with 8 points. And Barthelo of Cairoal, courtesy of his stage finish, with 8 points too. Well, we get ourselves ready for the podium presentation. Wait the arrival of our stage winner, Dylan Groenewegen. Crowds have their chance and opportunity to get prime viewing spot.
The winner of first stage, podelivalec je magister Branko Kidrič, župan općine Rogaška Slatina. Prosim, če stopite na odar. Zmagovalec je Dylan Groenewegen.
Dylan Groenewegen comes to the stage as the stage winner of stage one here in the Tour of Slovenia. He collects his prize. What else would you receive when you're in the home of crystal glass in Rogaška Slatina? Of course, some crystal glass.
Some crystal glass, why not? I like the way that the podium girl recovered the bottle of bubbly from under the table.
Important. Of course.
Don't leave that lying about.
Absolutely not. Not in the heat and not in the sun.
Watch out for the Binier Gamay move with the cork. Don't get it in the eye.
The last thing you need before the Tour de France in a couple of weeks. He shakes the Prosecco, the champagne. It's been a successful season for the sprinter. 5 wins already, the most of the sprinters really. When you take a look down, Philipsen, of course, not at this race, but he's had 4 victories.
They've not had many chances this year. There's not been that many big bunch sprints in the biggest, in the kind of grand tours, and even at this level of races, they're not getting many chances nowadays with the level being so high and the race has been so nervous.
Groenewegen returns to the podium as the leader of the overall general classification. He'll wear that green leader's jersey in the fight for green here at the Tour of Slovenia. He leads the general classification by 4 seconds to Phil Bauhaus. Matteo Moschetti at 6 seconds, and then we have Raul Garcia at 8 seconds. And another chance to spray the champagne. After a day like today, Pippa, I think he just wants to get on the team bus, get to the hotel, have his massage, have some food and get some rest and recovery ahead of potentially another sprint opportunity tomorrow.
I didn't want to say that he did look a bit tired up there. I'm not sure if he's back again.
Well, he will be as the leader of the points classification in that red jersey.
In this first stage, Celia Rogaška Slatina.
Riders still coming through the finish. Just shows what a difficult, demanding day it has been on the roads. It's a clean sweep almost for Dylan Groenewegen. He leads the points classification. He'll be wearing the green jersey as the leader of the race tomorrow. It will be Phil Bauhaus who will wear the points classification jersey. He currently sits second in the standings. He'll just be borrowing that off the shoulders of Dylan Groenewegen and a miniature bottle of bubbly.
Oh, he's actually going to take a drink out of this one. It's Groundhog Day. It just keeps coming back.
Keeps coming back for more. There are the standings in that points classification. Groenewegen leads with the maximum of 25 points after that stage victory. There are the standings. Further down, when the 2 breakaway riders in Mern and Caballeros put themselves up in that top 10, courtesy of their day out in the breakaway. So if they can continue scoring points again throughout stages, they'll keep themselves high. And here is our King of the Mountains leader, Andrea Garosio of Viola Cometa. After his day in the breakaway, he really fought hard to try and take that solitary point at the top of the only King of the Mountain of the day. Only 1 point, but it does mean that he's in that indigo jersey. Oh, he's not getting away that easy, is he?
I thought he was going to escape without the bubbly moment. That was a better effort with the champagne.
Making the most of his opportunities and his trips to the podium. But But one objective complete for Iolo Kometa, a jersey already after day one. They'll hope to try and keep that jersey as we head towards stage 2 tomorrow. More opportunities in the classification.
So always good to have a jersey. Makes you feel special. But quite often, Iolo will target those smaller classifications or the mountains classification.
And of course, important for their sponsors
because
too.
it's coverage for them.
Raul Garcia Piena, he comes to the podium in the white jersey as the leader of the under-23 classification. At least if he wasn't able to bridge across to the lone leader of Mern, at least he can get something in a jersey because of that crash.
He doesn't look too upset after considering he's fallen off today. He doesn't seem to have any holes in him, so probably just a few bruises and scrapes. It was a pity that he didn't make it across, crashing on that right-hander.
Certainly changes the dynamic of the race. He'll wear that white Young Riders jersey tomorrow on stage 2. Doesn't look too disheartened. Pick yourself up and go again. He leads by 2 seconds to Carlos Canal. Hopkins in third. There is the rundown of the under-23 riders in the race.
Hvala Rogačka, hvala vsem, da ste bili z nami. Uživajte dan še naprej.
Stage 1 of the Tour of Slovenia got underway at 11:05 a.m. from Celje. Quickly, a breakaway of 4 formed themselves and had an advantage of 3 minutes and 20 seconds over the peloton. The riders in that breakaway, Teo Pechnik, Boštjan Mjön, Thomas Calieros and Andrea Garosio. It was Jaco Alula who had the majority of the control throughout the day under the blue skies here in green Slovenia. We lost Pechnik on the King of the Mountain of the day, and others decided where they wanted to go for a gallop themselves. Tudor Pro Cycling wanted to try and stretch things out over the non-classified climbs and really do some damage to the remainder of the peloton. The fans were out in force, and unfortunately there was crashes for some. Alessandro De Marchi and Alex Martin, 2 riders caught up in a crash in the town. Cameron Scott making his way back on, and this was when Raul Garcia was in pursuit of our lone leader Boštjan Mjön. He suffered a crash on the corner, and as did one of the other riders from Iolo Kometa. That was Fernando Tercero. It was a nervous day, especially on these narrow roads, but it was still Jaco Alula who wanted to make sure that they had their sprinter protected. More crashes followed pursuit, and it was a Berija and the man from Green Project Bardiani, Santa Morita, who suffered that crash, but in the end the breakaway was caught within the final 300 metres. Luka Mezgets delivered Dylan Groenewegen to perfection. Phil Bauhaus had to settle for second. Matteo Moschetti in third with a shake of the head, but for Dylan Groenewegen, after a difficult, demanding day on the roads of Slovenia for stage 1, he was victorious.